I want to tell you guys a story. This was a particularly impactful moment that I had when I was working in the pediatric emergency room. I walked into a room and I saw a beautiful little black girl sitting on the patient table, and she had her hair in a high puff. I remember wearing my hair like that a few times when I was little too. She was super adorable, couldn't open her eyes. She was crying inconsolably. And at one point, her caregiver looks at me, looks really excited when she sees me, and then turns over to the patient and says, "Ooh, you are going to love this doctor. She looks just like your favorite character, Doc McStuffins." And magically, in that moment, after all of those inconsolable cries and screams, she literally stopped crying. Hey everyone, I'm Bernice. I am a first-year emergency medicine resident physician, and I guess you could say I'm the real-life Doc McStuffins. Do you see the resemblance? A little bit? Maybe? I don't know. But I think the power of that story that I just shared with you is number one, the briefness of that encounter, but the impact. What did that mean for that beautiful little girl to be in a space that was so unfamiliar and so scary, and then to hear that there is somebody who is the manifestation of one of her favorite cartoon characters present in the room. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Doc McStuffins, it's monumental that Doc McStuffins even exists as a character. She is a young black girl who has a mother who is a physician, and she wants to be a doctor like her mom when she grows up. And so in order to prepare herself in her toddler age, she runs kind of like a clinic of sorts for her stuffed animals. And so when her stuffed animals have boo-boos or they feel bad or they're going through things or whatever, she's there as their caretaker. The power of her existing as a character and that representation is so multifold because number one, that character is popular with all demographics. And so even just having the chance of people in different households to see a character like that existing, particularly in a world and in a country where less than 3%, you guys, 3%, less than 3% of the American physician workforce is Black women. The same can be said about Black men. The same can be said about Latinx men and women as well. The underrepresentation is astounding, unacceptable, and we're regressing, right? So in a world where people are not, for the most part, seeing physicians and people in these roles who look like this, for them to have a cartoon character who is young, appealing to that demographic, for them to be able to imagine themselves like that, and for even people who are not Black themselves to imagine the existence of Black young women thriving in these spaces is so powerful. So I remember even when I saw that character, I thought she was a superhero. I still think that Doc McStuffins is literally a superhero. And it just like tickled my heart when that caretaker said that about me. She was like, she looks just like Doc McStuffins. And I remember I left that room feeling so like, oh my God, like, oh, that like, it like made my day. Several of my favorite people in the world, people who I'm the closest to, have nicknamed me Doc McStuffins for many years. Even back when I was first starting medical school and I was getting my white coat and kind of starting off this journey, someone who's super duper close to me got me, like literally went out of their way to find this doll that was Doc McStuffins dressed in the white coat to give to me as a gift on my white coat ceremony, right? So I have this picture of me standing in my little short white coat that I got from medical school with this little doll of Doc McStuffins, and I had it on my desk for all the time I've been in med school. I still have the doll. as a reminder. And so that's always kind of been my nickname, and I've always loved the character, and I love the idea of kind of working to be like the Doc, like working to be somebody who is uplifting the people around them and that sort of thing. So when that caretaker said that about me and said that I reminded her of the character, it really touched my heart, and it reminded me of the doll that I've had for so many years. Kind of that has been motivating me in my medical journey. So it was actually the next day where I was just kind of reflecting, and I use Twitter, which, by the way, you guys feel definitely free to follow me on Twitter. It's the same, being Dr. Bernice handle. And I took to Twitter that day, and I like to reflect on the mundane parts of me as a trainee and kind of entering this field. I like to reflect on the triumphant days I have. I like to reflect on the difficult, trying days that I have, and I like to reflect on kind of these simple moments that can be transformative. And so that day I decided to tweet that simple story that I started this video off with. And something crazy happened, you guys. I mean, insane. Literally, it was maybe 20 seconds after I tweeted it, my phone, for the next several days, I'm like not kidding you guys, for the next several days, my phone did not stop buzzing. And why was that? Because it was like, retweet, comment, XYZ. You never know what things are gonna resonate with people. And I had no idea that this particular story was going to resonate with as many people as it did. And I think that it speaks to the power of a lot of things. Number one, I think a lot of people can identify with that kind of childlike wonder of who's gonna save me, that fear of being in an unfamiliar place, that fear of, you know, having something painful occur in a place, and then having literally the physical manifestation of your cartoon character appear must have really resonated with a lot of people. And then a big thing that I saw in a lot of the comments and in a lot of the response was, this is a literal example of the power of representation in these spaces. And I feel like even me making this YouTube channel is part of my personal effort to increase representation, because I know that there are so many people that watch my videos, and I'm so grateful for every single one of you guys. And one demographic that watches it and that is really motivating me to continue to create are young Black people who have not seen Black doctors. Because the fact that there are so few of us means that a lot of people have not seen it with their eyes, did not know that it was something that is in their own possibility. And it can be hard to understand this if you have always seen yourself represented in places, but it is very difficult to be what you can't see. And I feel like me existing in this space is trying to push against the idea that people are limited and people's opportunities are boxed in, because if I'm in this space, you can be in this space, and we can all exist. And one of the really the blessings that came out of that tweet, which in the end got like 100,000 likes, right? Like, I've never had seen that much traction before, but that really was just kind of like a testament to how much it resonated with people. Is somebody from Romper magazine reached out to me and said, oh, I would love to interview you and talk to you about why representation matters and why it's important to have Black women exist in these spaces when they really have not. I'm linking the article below. I was really honored with how she kind of conducted the interview and how the article turned out. And in it, I just talk about even my own journey and how I personally had never been treated by a Black woman physician, and I don't know that many in my life up until I got to be a lot older, even in college. And that's when I first started to kind of meet people in this space, and that was when I did specific summer programs that were for increasing underrepresented groups in these spaces. And what that meant for me in recognizing that this is something that I could do, and I have what it takes to exist and kind of be the change for communities that I care about. And then I go on to talk about the even bigger implications of representation, because there is something very powerful about having come from a particular experience and your capacity to relate to that experience. That's not to say that people outside of specific demographics have no capacity to understand or to relate to certain experiences, but there is a very strong, unique way that somebody who is Black and perhaps has experienced racism, somebody who is poor and has had to endure the effects of poverty, somebody that is a woman and knows what misogyny does to your day-to-day existence, what that can do. And so whenever you meet somebody who is a patient and say has experienced domestic violence, or potentially somebody who is non-binary, or somebody who is part of the LGBTQ community and knows what homophobia does to their capacity to exist and thrive daily. When you meet patients who have also endured those hardships and you're able to relate in a personal, not an intellectual, not a theoretical way, but in a personal way, there is just that extra amount of power that brings to that patient. It's incredibly difficult to be what you don't see. And with that level of underrepresentation, the vast majority of Americans, myself included, until I myself started taking the path towards becoming a doctor, do not see Black people occupying this space. And that is such a disservice, because we are losing so many people who maybe don't even realize that it's something that's in the cards for them. When people don't see other people who come from their own experience, whether that be a Black person who's been able to overcome racism and all of the different things, that the struggles that can come with being a Black person existing here, to then manifest that, or whether it be a woman who hasn't seen enough women physicians, or whether it be somebody who comes from a very humble background, has struggled with poverty and struggled with access to so many things, who's overcome all of these obstacles to become a physician. Once you get somebody who has experienced all of these things and then can come and relate with patients who have experienced a myriad of difficulties and challenges in their lives before they've arrived in front of you on that patient table, there's so much power in that, in the ways that you can relate. But it has other implications, because the really sad, difficult truth about medicine is that it has a very fraught history with communities that have been victimized by racism. Because of that, a lot of that legacy comes forth. We see right now that a lot of medical students have beliefs. You can see some of the studies that Black people feel pain less frequently than their white and other racial counterparts, or they are less likely to believe the complaints that Black patients bring versus other patients. And that is really, really consequential in the way that people are treated and the way that people trust the healthcare system. We already have the Tuskegee medical experiment, one of the most famous medical experiments that has really created really poor trust between the Black community and the medical system. Henrietta Lacks, there are a lot of OBGYN experimentation, a lot of really terrible things that do exist in the legacy of medicine and in what they have done to communities of color. And so for patients too, when they see providers who they believe can relate to that experience and understand where some of that mistrust may come from, our presence can even allay some of that mistrust that they might have with the medical system. And so that's all to say, number one, we need more. We need more people who maybe feel like they don't have what it takes, or they're not capable of existing in these spaces. We need you. We desperately need you. We have very unfortunately seen a regression in the pipeline of Black doctors, even from the 1970s, if you can believe that, a regression. and there's just so much that needs to change. So we need you. We need you. We need more people to be the real life Doc McStuffins to that next little girl. Imagine how powerful. Imagine. I am so grateful to be in this space. I'm so grateful. I just don't take any day for granted when I realize the power of me being able to pursue this purpose of mine, this found purpose of mine. It's not a perfect path. Medicine is not perfect, and I will definitely make some videos coming up about the imperfections of this journey and this path and all that stuff. I don't want to misrepresent that. But when you do find out that it is indeed your purpose to be in this space, know that we are ready for you with warm, welcoming arms, and that there is entire swaths of this community. There are so many people who are desperately waiting for you and your presence and what you can do and the change that you can make in people's lives. Okay? I love making these videos. Please keep tuning in. I'm grateful for all of my new subscribers. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Check out my other videos. I have a whole variety of videos that you might find interesting, so go ahead and check out my channel and see the different things that I've produced, and I have way more to come. So make sure to subscribe, join, hit that bell notification, and share with anyone that you think could benefit from hearing this message. And as always, continue to live purposefully. I'm grateful for each and every one of you, and it is bye for now.